I've actually prepared a short speech, not too long, because for you to have gone through Stephen's program successfully, that means you're a brainiac, okay? Because Stephen and I have been together right from the beginning of the African Angel Academy. And in fact, if memory serves me right, I helped populate the initial content for the Academy. Right, I've had to write this one down because it's just been that crazy. But good evening. Looks a lot like the future of African innovation. Because when I looked, there was a young lady I walked in with, and I could tell, yeah, this is Africa's future. Now she's too busy looking at her phone. No, I'm not pointing. She can't even hear. She's not with us, okay? She's not engaged with us. When she comes back, let her know I mentioned her. Okay, now, I've spent a good time of my life in rooms like this. London, Lagos, Nairobi, New York, you name it, you know. And what do I mean? Well, what I've learned, you know what? Let me put it this way, okay? Because I've been asked to talk about negotiations as alignment. Solomon, correct me if I'm wrong, and exit thinking as early discipline. Okay, first, let's deal with the first one, okay? Most people come into negotiation thinking it's us against them. How much am I going to get from this deal? If I give this kid or this man or this lady my 10 grand, my 15 grand, my, you know, as Stephen was telling you, how much do I get 10 years from now? Don't do that. You heard him. They're going to be locked in for 7 to 10 years. Do I want a relationship? How do I build that relationship? Is this person going to be worth my time investment? Because this is not just about cash. That's why it's angel. Okay? They're going to need guidance. They're going to need connections. That's in addition to the cash. I remember I met a founder. When she came into the room, she sat like this. This was her day. Looking at me, high expectations. By the time, well, let me fast forward now. This is, wow, 5 years later, okay? Her company is worth maybe about 3x what it was when we gave her the money. But by and large, anytime I'm in Lagos, we do dinner, we have a chat, provide guidance. So when you are negotiating with a founder, that's the best way to think about it. All right? The numbers, I'm quite sure they've taken you through everything from valuation on down. And if they haven't, they should have, you know. But to be honest, this is about building a relationship. And that's what needs to be at the back of your head. Because no matter how much, I've had people, they end up with fancy documents, and then they don't see the founder for 9 months. Do you get the point? Now, I have a privilege. What's that? Well, I've been doing this since some of you were wearing underwear, unashamedly. And I've seen, you name it, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. But on the second topic, in 2019, I gave a founder $1,600, $1,600. Last year I picked up $50,000 and I still have half my shares. There's another founder, I gave him $2,500. This April, I picked up another 50 grand. But I only do first outside checks. Okay? That's how I do it. First outside check. If somebody else has invested, I wish you luck, continue. And by the way, if your family haven't invested, don't come and talk to me. But if, yes, your uncle, your aunt, or your whoever it is, even if all they gave you is $250K, let's have that chat. If you meet all the criteria. Which takes us to the exit question. How do you know if you'll be able to exit? I have a framework. If you want to look up a company that I'm going to tell you about, we raised $100 million for this company, and it went bust in 2 years. If you don't believe me, please do a search on boo.com, BOO.com. It's in Wikipedia. I was the chief operating officer for futurewealth.co.uk. That was Ernst & Young's incubator during the dot-com bubble. I ran London and Boston. 2 co-founders, female and male. The lady was lovely. Unfortunately, her partner was a junkie. But both of them have built Bocus before they came to us. And that's why. But I don't know if any of you have worked in consulting. But if you have, then you know postmortem forensics. What went wrong? Why did it go wrong? What should we have done? And what do we do the next time? And that, the learning from that catastrophic failure is what gave birth to the poem framework. What does the poem framework say? Well, the poem framework says, guess what? Small business, microfinance. Micro business, microfinance. But if they are fast moving, then you can't use traditional methods, which is what we try to do. Standard P&L. Forget that matter. We, at that time, didn't understand that first you have to do a market assessment, understand what's the size of the market, TAM, TOM, SOM. You all know that now, right? How big is the market? Because you can never be bigger than your market. That's why it's the starting point. Okay? Now, given that market and the competition, who are the customers inside that market? So you all know about CAC to LTV. I'm looking for LTV to CAC of 3-to-1, right? Or am I losing you yet? You should have all learned these things by now, Abby. These are family, okay. So, once I understand the customers, I can see the personas, the profiles, and everything else. Then we drop down and say, okay, what exactly are you now selling them? What's the product design, development, distribution, sales, marketing? How do you do all of that? Because that's where the money is going to come from. Now, once you understand the nature of the product service offering to customers in that specific market, you then understand the proposition. And you can tell, will this thing make money or are they just joking? If they're just joking, then you move on. But if it's for real, you drop to the O. All right, I can see how you make money. Who are the people? Who owns the company? Who runs the company? Who works for the company? Who partners with the company? What's the culture of the company? Now that I know the people, how do they get things done? How do they buy? How do they make? How do they sell? How do they operate? Once I can see that, okay, it makes sense. I can see how you do all those things. Now, last I checked, the only way to serve 1 million people or more is through tech. Or 10,000 companies or more is still through tech. So the question becomes, what's the tech? What's in the cloud? What's in the hand? What's on the desk? What secures them in between? How about the user experience? So once you know the process, you know the people, you understand the processes and the technology, that means you know the organization that's going to deliver the proposition. Are you still with me, or have I lost anybody? Once we're clear on that, can you see how you're going to make money, how you're going to deliver it? Then you move into the economics of it all. And that starts with capital. How much have you put in, Mr. Founder? It's not always in money. How much time? Your time at market rates is of value. Most founders don't see that. Now that you've put that in, how much have your family given you? Because if your family don't trust you with money, why should I? I don't care who you are, you will have an uncle or an aunt somewhere that will give you 10 grand to do your business. Write it down. That's where the conversations go. Once you've done that, you then come to you, people like us. Remember I said first outside check. Are you with me? And each time it's a question of, okay, you got 20 grand from TD. What did you do with it? Oh, we used it for A, B, C, D, E, F. We deployed the capital. Why are you deploying the capital? You're deploying it as expenditure. Can everybody see that? That's why we talk about burn rate. You're burning capital. But you burn that capital, why? To generate revenue. So that you can get to profitability. Profitability is that nirvana. Why? Because that's when you can start talking about returns. If you're not profitable, where are the returns going to come from? That's the journey. And you're doing this while you're having an impact. I don't care who you are. At least you do one SDG. If not 2, 3, or 4 of them. Which one? You create jobs. It's an SDG. You hire women? It's an SDG. Good working and conditions and environment? It's an SDG. So what impact are you having? How are you measuring it? Now that we understand the economics of it all, the question becomes, where are you with it? Where's your progress? What have you achieved to date? I call it bragging rights. Okay? Or the act, what's your name again?
Sonia.
Eh?
Sonia.
Shirley?
Sonia.
Tonia. S-O-N-I-A. Sonia. Thank you. The act according to Sonia. What's the act? Well, first, what has she achieved? That's the A. Single, what are the challenges you're facing? What are the risks associated with what you're doing? What are the mitigants? Okay? That you've put in place. And what's the probability of the risk occurring, by the way? Let's have that conversation. So once we understand that, we then move finally to your targets. Can you see that? ACT, the act according to you. So the targets are your forecasts. What are the underlying assumptions that underpin those targets? Well, I'm assuming that Lagos State is not going to change governors for the next. I'm assuming that, and that's what we talk about. So you see how simple the framework is? But it starts with the vision. And that vision is the question, what problem are you solving? And who sees value in that solution? And that is the beginning of your conversation. Stephen Covey, one of my favorite authors, says, begin with the end in mind. And that's what you do here. Like Stephen Gugu was saying earlier, you invest with an exit in mind. It's the same principle. Are they going to be acquired? What's the probability of acquisition and how many have happened? Is it going to be another investor coming to take you out? What's the likelihood of that? When people start talking about unicorn status and IPO, I just laugh. Really, I laugh in their face. Not because it's not achievable. There are people that have done it. But it's highly improbable. And I'm a realist. I'm not going to wait forever to get returns. Although I am waiting on one particular startup. I think I invested in it in 2008. But it's worth over $40 million today. So it's not as if it's not done anything. I've had failures too. By the way, I can tell you how many, I gave one particular startup, I think I gave them 5M. For years I was chairman of CC Hub. So I put them in CC Hub. I live in Hertfordshire in the UK. I went home for, my normal, I came back the next time. Where are these people? We haven't seen them for 2 months. That was the end of my money. Seriously. Okay? And I bring that up because 70% of startups fail in the first 2 years. 90% in 10 years. If they're real startups. Why is that? It's the nature of innovation. That's what startups do. They innovate. They're not SMEs. My family is the best example. I deal with startups. I've just told you about exits. My wife, she runs schools. She's got schools in the UK, schools here. And I think it's July, they declare a dividend. How much are you declaring this? It's not a lot now. How much are you? Don't worry about it. So you can see there's a difference. All right? With startups, when are you getting to private equity or when are you getting so I can collect? But as angels, you have to help them navigate that route. The things you've learned, 80% of them I've never heard of. They just know there's an opportunity and I want to build something to crack that opportunity. CAC to LTV. Which one be CAC again? Which one be LTV? So when you sit down to negotiate with them, have that in the back of your head. Do I really want to have a long-term relationship with this person, regardless? I have a founder. We invested, we got to, I think it was about 50,000 users a day. In Nigeria. We couldn't make money. Eventually we shut it down. But because we had a relationship, guess what happened? 2 years later, he came back. Excuse me, said, I think I've got the solution now. That was the 50 grand I picked up in April. He raised $25 million in April from going bust. And you know who I'm talking about. So the point I'm trying to make is, when you go into that negotiation, begin with the end in mind. Thank you for listening.